The first impact comes without any warning. Something massive crashes through the forest at full speed, tearing branches apart and sending birds into the sky. The sound is heavy and violent, like wood being ripped open under pressure. A deer bursts into a clearing, running at full speed, but it doesn't get far. The grizzly closes the distance almost instantly and hits it with overwhelming force, lifting it off the ground and slamming it down. The crack of bone echoes briefly, then everything goes quiet. The bear doesn't rush. It stands over the body, breathing slowly, scanning the forest as if checking for anything else nearby. Its movements are controlled and deliberate. After a few seconds, it grips the carcass and drags it into the trees, leaving behind a thick trail of blood that disappears into the shadows. The clearing becomes empty again. For a while, nothing happens. The forest remains silent, the air heavy and still, as if everything is waiting. Deeper in the trees, the bear doesn't go far. It moves slowly, circling, stopping, listening. Several minutes later, the sound of tires cuts through the silence. A pickup truck skids across a dirt road and stops abruptly. 4 men step out quickly, already alert, and move into the forest. They follow the trail without hesitation. Broken branches, deep tracks, and fresh blood make the direction clear. At first, everything feels controlled. They move confidently, speaking in short, focused phrases, tracking the signs on the ground. They believe they are following the animal. They don't realize they have already been noticed. As they move deeper, something begins to feel wrong. The forest becomes unnaturally quiet. No birds return. No insects buzz. Even the wind seems to stop moving. One of the men slows slightly, sensing it, but continues forward. They reach the clearing and find what remains of the deer. It has been torn apart violently, but it hasn't been long. The blood is still wet. One of them crouches and touches it. Warm. Too recent. He looks up to speak, but a low growl rolls through the trees. It is deep and heavy, strong enough to be felt in the chest. Everyone freezes. The growl comes again, closer now. Then the trees ahead shift, and the bear charges. It comes out of the brush instantly, without hesitation, committing fully to the attack. The first man is hit before he can react, and is thrown into a tree. Another tries to raise his rifle, but the bear is already on him. One powerful swipe drops him immediately. Everything collapses in seconds. Gunshots echo through the forest, uncontrolled and ineffective. One man runs, another falls. The bear moves through them quickly, striking once more before disappearing back into the trees just as suddenly as it appeared. Silence returns. 2 men lie on the ground. One is barely breathing. The others stand frozen, realizing this was not a random encounter. Within an hour, a helicopter appears overhead, and search teams move into the forest. They spread out in organized lines, communicating constantly as they begin mapping the scene. They follow blood trails, broken vegetation, and deep tracks left in the ground. At first, everything looks chaotic, but as they continue, something becomes clear. The tracks are not random. They loop, intersect, and cut across the terrain in ways that suggest deliberate movement. Despite this, the teams continue deeper. The forest becomes denser, visibility drops, and movement slows. It becomes harder to maintain spacing between team members. Every direction begins to look the same, and the sense of orientation starts to fade. Then they find a campsite, or what remains of it. The tents are shredded, supplies scattered everywhere, and backpacks torn open. Food is spread across the ground. The trees around the site are marked with deep claw gouges far higher than expected. There is blood across the entire area. Some of it has already darkened and dried. Some is still fresh. But there are no bodies. The ground shows drag marks leading away from the campsite and into dense brush. The team follows. Suddenly, a scream cuts through the forest. It is sharp and very close. The team reacts immediately, but they are already too late. The bear attacks again, this time coming from the side. It does not approach from where they are looking. It moves directly into the center of the group, breaking their formation instantly. One man is knocked to the ground. Another tries to pull him back and is struck as well. A shotgun blast hits the bear, and for a moment it recoils. Blood appears along its shoulder, but it does not retreat. It turns toward the shooter and locks onto him. The shooter backs away, trying to reload, but his hands shake. He stumbles and falls. The bear reaches him in seconds. The rest of the team breaks apart completely, running in different directions and losing coordination. The bear does not chase all of them. It chooses. Hours later, a small group of survivors regroups. There are fewer of them now. They are quieter, more careful. They try to call for extraction, but their radios do not work. There is no signal. They have gone too deep. No one says it directly, but they all understand they are on their own. Night falls, and they build a fire. They sit close together with their weapons ready. No one sleeps. The forest feels different now. It no longer feels empty. It feels like something is aware of them. Branches snap in the darkness. Something moves just outside the firelight, always staying just out of sight. It circles them slowly, watching and waiting. The movement follows a pattern. Slow approach, pause, shift, retreat, then closer again. It does not attack. That makes it worse. By morning, they move again. They are no longer searching. They are trying to leave. But the forest does not open up. Instead, it feels like it is closing in around them. Then they notice the tracks more clearly, large and fresh. Not behind them, around them. Wide arcs cutting across their path again and again. The realization builds slowly. The bear is not following them. It is controlling where they go. One of them finally says it out loud. "It's hurting us." No one disagrees. They reach a ridge and finally see beyond the trees. For a moment, there is relief. Then they see what lies ahead. More forest, stretching endlessly. They have not been escaping. They have been guided. A sound behind them breaks the silence. They turn, and the bear charges downhill. This time it uses the slope to gain speed. It hits one of them with overwhelming force and slams him into the ground. The others fire again, hitting the bear multiple times. Blood sprays across the leaves. The bear roars, louder and more aggressive, but it does not fall. It pulls back briefly, then charges again. The survivors lose control completely, sliding down the ridge, dropping equipment and abandoning anything that slows them down. They reach a river. The current is strong and freezing, but there is no other option. They begin crossing. The water slows them immediately. Halfway through, the surface erupts. The bear does not come from behind. It comes from the side. It anticipated their movement. It hits one man midstream and drags him under instantly. The water turns red. The remaining survivors panic and push through the current, barely making it to the other side. Now only two remain. They do not speak anymore. They just move, slow and exhausted. Every step takes effort. Hours later, they find an abandoned ranger station. It is damaged but still standing. They go inside, block the entrance, and search for supplies. There is almost nothing left, only a flare gun, a few rusted tools, and fragments of old equipment. Then they hear it outside. Slow footsteps. Close. Circling again. Not leaving. Night falls. They sit in complete darkness. Then suddenly, the door collapses inward under the bear's weight. Wood splinters and the structure gives way. The bear forces its way inside. There is nowhere to run. One of them fires the flare. It strikes the bear and burns into its shoulder, lighting the room in a flash. The bear roars loudly but does not stop. It lunges forward. In the confined space, everything becomes immediate and violent. One man is killed instantly. The last survivor fights back desperately, using whatever he can find to create distance. For a brief moment, the bear pulls back. Then it turns and leaves. Silence returns. The survivor does not move. He waits, listening, expecting it to come back. It does not. Morning comes slowly. He walks out of the station alone, barely able to stand. Rescue teams find him hours later. He cannot explain everything, but he says enough to make one thing clear. This was not random. When investigators search the forest later, the evidence confirms it. The tracks form wide circles. Paths cut off escape routes. Points of attack are placed deliberately. This was not chaos. It was control. Far deeper in the forest, beyond where anyone continues to search, the grizzly moves again through the trees. Slow, heavy, and deliberate. It does not rush because it does not need to. It chooses when it begins, and it chooses when it ends. And somewhere, long before anyone realizes it, the next encounter has already started.